So how about like a Justinian plague and also the Black Death? Were these like a avoiding responsibility and blaming others? Like you mentioned about scapegoating, but was it identical right now, like in COVID-19, or were there any differences in how people react and how policies were?
I mean, I think there are things that we can say were similar, but of course, we're talking about different societies, different time periods, different cultures, different belief systems, different social structures. And so, of course, there were differences. But what I would emphasize as being, similar are those kinds of responses that you would expect from any human society, independent of, when they lived, where they lived, who they were. And some of these responses really have something to do with like some deeper level human responses, such as, for example, fear, right? Or the motivation and desire to protect your loved ones, right? Or any kind of like attachments that define your social bonds, either within the family or within your community, or other forms of social tension that arises in times of crises, right? So with that regard, I think we can basically think of these as like general templates that we can use to adapt to different historical contexts. And I will still give us at least a basic outlook in trying to interpret and understand human behavior. Again, I'm not saying the human behavior did not change, but I think there are some recognizable similarities. And let's take the example of scapegoating, since we, have already started talking about that question. You can find examples of it in many different societies. It takes a different form in different contexts, but the idea of blaming some other group of people, either because they were different in terms of their belief, their ethnic origins, their skin color, or just beliefs, or any other reason, because they were different, it was basically enough for them to be kind of shown as a target during a time of stress. Let's think of the effect of the pandemic here, or just basically, any epidemic. Could be a smaller outbreak or a larger one like this. It's like a global pandemic, but it triggers a certain set of emotional response, being, fear and terror, uncertainty about the future, or like stress on sharing economic resources, like all of these, being important questions in times of stress. And that brings to the core the fault lines, the tensions, the already pre-existing problems within a community or a society. And so basically any group that holds lesser social power would be, or can easily be, blamed for bringing the disease or causing the disease or spreading the disease, right? Conspiracy theories, they're nothing new. For anyone who thinks that, COVID is the beginning of conspiracy theories, no, unfortunately, they're very old. Perhaps they're as old as humanity, though we can say that, electronic communication and, social media maybe contributed to like faster spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories. But you have those in the past. You have just a very simple example that comes to mind. For example, in medieval Europe during the Black Death, there were rumors that Jewish groups, Jewish populations were poisoning the wells, water wells, as a cause of, plague, spreading plague. But of course, like we know for a fact that that has nothing to do with reality, but it doesn't matter. What matters is what people believed. and whether that rumor motivated them to act on it, right? And today, I think it's a perfectly comparable example in the sense that, all these conspiracy theories going on, about COVID. I don't even want to name them because there are so many. But what really the content of the conspiracies really doesn't even matter. What matters is its effectiveness and its power in mobilizing people, in mobilizing them in shaping their perspective and in guiding their behavior. For example, if someone believes in these conspiracies and refuses to get vaccinated, that's a problem, right? And then it doesn't even matter what the content of the conspiracy is, right? What matters is that people believe in them as truth. But we live in an age of post-truth, so anything is possible, right? Unfortunately.